Hey everyone, welcome back. So, there's big news out of the Social Security Administration, and it's something that affects over 75 million Americans. The 2026 Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA, has just been announced. It's set at 2.8%, which means the average monthly retirement benefit will rise by about $56. That might not sound huge, but for many people, it's an important change that can make a real difference month to month. And here's the part a lot of people don't realize. This increase also reflects what's happening in the broader economy, and it tells us a lot about where inflation, wages, and government spending are headed next. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. Before we get started, let me know in the comments, how do you feel about this COLA increase? Does it feel fair to you, or do you think it falls short of what retirees really need? I love hearing how these changes impact different people, because everyone's situation is a little bit different. Now, let's start with what this means in plain terms. The COLA, or Cost of Living Adjustment, is basically how Social Security tries to keep up with inflation. It's calculated using something called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-W for short. I know, that's a mouthful, but the key idea is simple. It measures how prices change for everyday goods and services, and that data determines how much your benefits go up each year. The government looks at the average prices from July through September of one year, compares it to the same months from a year before, and whatever percentage increase they find becomes the COLA for the next year. Now, this year's 2.8% adjustment follows a 2.5% increase in 2025, and it's a far cry from that massive 8.7% jump we saw back in 2023 when inflation was sky high. Back then, prices for everything, from groceries to gas, were climbing so fast that even a record increase barely kept people afloat. So, while 2.8% feels smaller, it actually reflects a calmer economy and more stable prices. That's a good sign overall, though it doesn't mean everyone's expenses are suddenly easier to manage. The Social Security Commissioner, Frank Bisignano, put simply when he said, "Social Security is a promise kept." The idea is that this annual increase helps your benefits reflect today's economic realities. And that's true, at least in theory. But here's where things get tricky. Even though the average retiree will now receive around $2,064 a month, up from 2008, a lot of people won't actually feel that extra $56 in their pockets. And why? Because healthcare costs, especially Medicare premiums, are expected to eat up a big chunk of that. In fact, Medicare Part B premiums are projected to rise by about $21.50, from $185 to $207 per month. So nearly 38% of the average COLA increase could disappear before it even reaches your bank account. That's something a lot of retirees are frustrated about. I heard from one couple who said that even with the increase, their combined bump of about $168 won't go far. They joke that it's barely enough to cover one modest dinner out anymore. And that's what so many older Americans are feeling right now. It's not that the raise doesn't help, it's that prices are outpacing it. According to AARP, about 72% of people over 50 say they need at least a 5% increase just to keep up with rising costs. Only about 1 in 4 feel that a 3% boost is enough. That's a pretty big gap between perception and policy, and it raises a question. How well does the government's formula really reflect what retirees are dealing with day to day? And that brings us to the next part of the story, the formula itself. The COLA is based on that CPI-W I mentioned earlier, but here's the catch. It doesn't actually track spending patterns for retirees. It's based on data from younger working adults, which means it tends to underestimate things like medical costs and housing, which make up a much bigger share of expenses for older adults. There's actually another index called the CPI, or Consumer Price Index for the elderly. This one gives more weight to healthcare and housing costs, and it usually runs a bit higher than the regular CPI-W. If the government used that instead, retirees might see slightly larger COLAs each year. But it's not the official measure. Congress would have to pass a law to change that. And, well, we all know how slow Congress can be on issues like this. So for now, we're still using a system that might not fully match the financial realities of retirees. And speaking of realities, Let's also talk about something that doesn't get as much attention: the regional differences. A uniform 2.8% increase might sound fair, but it means something completely different depending on where you live. For example, an older adult in New York City might need over $30,000 a year just to cover basic expenses, while someone living in Birmingham, Alabama, could need closer to $21,000. That's almost a 50% difference in cost of living. Yet both receive the same COLA. So for some, this increase feels like a small relief, and for others, it barely moves the needle. Now, if you're still working, you might notice something else changing in 2026. The maximum amount of earnings subject to Social Security taxes is going up. It's rising from $176,100 to $184,500. That means higher earners will pay more into the system, which helps extend the life of the program. Just pausing for a moment to share something important with you. We've partnered with Chapter, a service we feel confident recommending for clear, honest Medicare help. They'll connect you with a licensed advisor, compare every Medicare plan in your area, and help you save money. Most people save around $1,100 a year. It's free, and their care advocate team is there to support you even after you're signed up. Call 615-639-1937 or visit askchapter.org/money using the link in the comments below. But it also means a slightly bigger tax bill for some. For everyday workers, though, it's another reminder of how these annual updates affect not just retirees, but everyone contributing to the system. And, this conversation always circles back to one big question: will Social Security be there in the long run? The trust funds that support the program are projected to face depletion by the mid-2030s if Congress doesn't act. If that happens, benefits could automatically be cut by around 20%. Raising the taxable maximum, like we're seeing now, helps a little, but it's not a long-term fix. Policymakers have floated all kinds of ideas, from increasing payroll taxes to reducing benefits for higher earners. But so far, no major changes have passed. What's interesting is that despite all these challenges, Social Security continues to modernize behind the scenes. If you haven't already, creating a My Social Security account can make life a lot easier. You can see your COLA notice online, adjust your tax withholdings, or even request a replacement card. And many people find it faster and safer than waiting for letters in the mail. It's one of those small but helpful ways to stay on top of your benefits. Now let's step back for a second and think about what this increase really represents. A 2.8% COLA isn't just about keeping up with prices. It's about preserving dignity for millions of Americans who rely on these benefits as their primary source of income. A recent study from Vanguard showed that only about 42% of Americans are on track to maintain their standard of living in retirement. And for those without savings or 401ks, Social Security is everything. When your entire financial stability depends on that one check, even a modest adjustment matters. But there's still a deeper issue here, and it's one we don't talk about enough. A National Council on Aging report found that 80% of people over 60 would struggle to handle a financial emergency, like a major medical bill or sudden housing repair. And lower-income retirees tend to live shorter lives, sometimes nearly a decade less than those who are more financially secure. It's a tough truth, but it's why these annual COLA announcements are more than just numbers. They're a reflection of how well we, as a country, are supporting our aging population. So then, what can you do with this information? For starters, if you're currently receiving benefits, make sure you understand exactly how much your new payment will be. You can find your updated benefit amount in your Social Security account or your mailed notice. Keep an eye on your Medicare deductions too, because those changes often hit at the same time. And if you're still working, remember that staying employed, even part-time, can help you build a stronger financial cushion before retirement. Another thing to consider is how you budget for healthcare. Since medical expenses often rise faster than inflation, setting aside a little extra each month, even if it's just $20 or $30, can help cover those future costs that COLA increases don't fully address. And if you're helping your parents or grandparents manage their finances, this is a great time to sit down and go over their expenses together. So, What does all this mean for the future? Well, a smaller COLA may signal that inflation is stabilizing, which is good news for the overall economy. But for retirees, the feeling is mixed. The increase helps, but it doesn't erase the ongoing challenges of higher living costs, especially for essentials like food, rent, and prescription drugs. It's a reminder that while the Social Security system is doing its job in adjusting for inflation, there's still work to be done to make retirement secure for everyone. And guess what? There's a broader story here too. With traditional pensions fading and fewer people saving enough for retirement, Social Security has become the main safety net. Every annual adjustment, even a small one like this, is really about preserving that promise of stability. Commissioner Bisignano said it best when he called the COLA a vital part of how Social Security delivers on its mission. It's not just about living, it's about living with dignity. So, as we head into 2026, it's worth remembering that this 2.8% boost, while modest, is part of a bigger picture. It reflects the government's effort to balance fairness, sustainability, and compassion in a tough economic environment. It's not perfect, but it's a step toward keeping that promise alive. So let me know down in the comments, do you think this increase is enough? Are you feeling the pinch from rising costs? Or are you noticing any relief from inflation this year? Your stories help others see how these numbers actually play out in real life. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss future updates like this. We'll keep breaking down these changes together, one step at a time. Because understanding your benefits isn't just about numbers. It's about peace of mind, and that's something everyone deserves.